Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Nick Harper and these are the top stories of the hour.
Hope an attack won't happen, but if it does, we are prepared.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen warns that if an attack occurs against Ukraine, the bloc will respond with massive economic and financial sanctions. Russia deploys combat reconnaissance helicopters for the first time at an Air Force base in the southern Rostov region near the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin denounces US President Joe Biden for saying a disaster awaited Russia if it attacked Ukraine, stressing that it destabilized an already tense situation. Former Pope Benedict XVI has been incriminated in a new report on the handling of child sex abuse in the Catholic Church in Munich. The first humanitarian flights arrive in volcano and tsunami-stricken Tonga, 5 days after the dual disaster cut the Pacific nation off from the rest of the world. The seeds continue to tumble on what has turned out to be a terrible Thursday in the women's singles at the Australian Open. US Open champion Emma Raducanu joins third seed Gebinye Muguruza and sixth seed Annette Kontaveit on the exit list. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Berlin for talks with European allies in yet another diplomatic attempt to diffuse tensions with Moscow over Ukraine. The German Foreign Minister and meeting's host, Annalena Baerbock, has received Secretary Blinken at the Berlin Foreign Ministry. The foreign ministers of France, the UK, Germany and the US posed for a photo op before heading in for the round-table talks. Secretary Blinken is scheduled to give a speech in Berlin and hold talks with the German Chancellor, aimed at the European public as well as policymakers. The speech will try to cast the crisis over Ukraine as a critical moment for the rules-based international order. After wrapping up meetings in Berlin, Blinken will then head to Geneva, where he'll meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. That final meeting will be held on Friday. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre, has arrived in Berlin last night. The German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, received his Norwegian counterpart with military honours. Right after the welcome ceremony, the German Chancellor spoke to the press about the future handling of Russia and shared his concerns over Ukraine.
Und natürlich werden wir auch aktuelle sicherheitspolitische Themen.
Of course, we will also discuss current security policy issues which worry both of us. Here, I am obviously first and foremost thinking of the situation in and around Ukraine and the future handling of Russia. Just yesterday, I was able to address these issues with another Norwegian, if I may put it this way, with NATO Secretary Stoltenberg, with whom you, Jonas, worked closely together in the past and whom you know very well.
Sehr viel zusammengearbeitet hast in der Vergangenheit und den du natürlich sehr gut kennst.
The French President Emmanuel Macron has called on the European Union to quickly draw up a new security plan. Macron has suggested that this new plan should contain proposals to help ease tensions with Russia. His remarks come just a day after NATO's Secretary-General confirmed that the military organisation is in the process of finalising its own security proposals.
These next weeks must lead to a European proposal to build a new security and stability pact. We must build it between Europeans before we share it with our allies within NATO and then offer it up for negotiation with Russia.
Well, our correspondent Trent Murray has sent us this report from Berlin.
Well, I think as part of this whistle-stop whirlwind tour of Europe by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, there's a couple of real motives here. And the first really is to send a strong message to the Kremlin that the US is united with European allies in trying to push back against Russian aggression in the region. I mean, the latest intelligence suggests that up to 120,000 troops are now positioned on the Ukrainian border, also battalions that include tanks and heavy artillery. So there really is a ratcheting up now of tensions on both sides. Also, what you're seeing from the NATO side is a continual delivery of weapon systems to the Ukrainians. I mean, London has been sending anti-tank missiles via the RAF in recent days, and also overnight the US gave the Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia, the green light to essentially also export US-made weapons from those countries to Ukraine. So there is ongoing tensions, and I think that really the focus now of Secretary Blinken is to not just get European unity, but to also try and just essentially get Russia to take a step back here to try and ease some of these tensions. That's what he'll be trying to do when he meets with Lavrov in Geneva.
Well, today, January the 20th, is the day that Joe Biden assumed the office of President of the United States. Today, Biden held a formal press conference marking his first year in office. Speaking on the country's fight against COVID-19, President Biden said that the US was in a better place to fight the virus than it was when he became president 1 year ago. But Biden also admitted that more could have been done earlier to boost COVID-19 testing when the Omicron variant emerged. He said that more is being done now. However, the country has gone from 0 on home testing a year ago to 375 million tests on the market in just a month.
Year of challenges, but it's also been a year of enormous progress. We went from 2 million people being vaccinated at the moment I was sworn in to 210 million Americans being fully vaccinated today. The bottom line on COVID-19 is that we're in a better place than we've been and have been thus far, clearly better than a year ago. We're not going back to lockdowns. We're not going back to closing schools. Schools should stay open because the American Rescue Plan, we provided to states $130 billion. $130 billion to keep our students and educators safe and schools open.
Well, the country appears to be emerging from the latest COVID wave, but the data shows that cases still remain far higher than during previous surges, and COVID hospitalizations remain at record levels. The decline was most prominent in states first hit by the wave, particularly in the northeast like New York and New Jersey. Cases, though, are still increasing in the western states like New Mexico, Arizona and Utah. President Biden also confirmed that Kamala Harris would be his running mate if he were to run for the office for a second term. While the president has alluded that he would seek nomination for the November 2024 election, he's not yet formally announced his intention.
Put Vice President Harris in charge of voting rights. Are you
Number one.
You put Vice President Harris in charge of voting rights. Are you satisfied with her work on this issue? And can you guarantee, do you commit that she will be your running mate in 2024, provided that you run again?
Yes and yes. She's going to be my running mate. number one. And number two, I did put her in charge. I think she's doing a good job.
Biden's first-year anniversary comes at a rocky time. His Build Back Better agenda is on ice, and COVID hospitalizations have reached a record high. The president's approval rating is also at the lowest. A survey from Gallup shows that Biden's approval is at 40%. This is well below his polling average of 48.9% in the past year. Well, our correspondent Susan Tarani sent us more details on this from New York.
Domestically, the president blamed COVID, the Republicans, and even big meat companies for the economic problems many Americans are facing here at home, notably the supply chain crisis and inflation. He denied that he overpromised during his first year. He did say that he actually outperformed expectations, pointing to the decline in COVID deaths, mass vaccinations, and also job creations. Biden said that he commits to keeping Vice President Kamala Harris as his running mate for 2024. He also said that he's disappointed in some within his own party for not supporting his domestic agenda, saying, quote, "I'm not asking for castles in the sky." Regarding his signature Build Back Better bill, the president did admit that that bill will likely be broken up into pieces in order for it to get passed on Capitol Hill. Moving forward during his second year, anything he would do differently, he said that he hopes to get out of Washington more and talk to the American public, consult with more quote-unquote experts for constructive criticism, and also he looks forward to campaigning for 2022. And regarding those sinking poll numbers, President Biden said, well, he doesn't pay attention to polls. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
In the final days of the Afghanistan evacuation, the United States conducted a botched drone strike, which killed 10 innocent civilians. The US had brushed it off as a tragic mistake. Now, the Central Command for the United States has released newly declassified surveillance footage, which provides additional insight into the final moments of the strike. On your screens is the video that has been released, and in it you can see how the US military made such a crucial decision. On imagery that was fuzzy, hard to interpret in real time, the videos were captured by cameras from 2 drones. It shows a car arriving at and backing into a courtyard on a residential street that's blocked by walls. Blurry figures can be seen moving around, both around the courtyard and outside the house. Seconds before, a Hellfire missile engulfs the area in fire and smoke. The US military had been tracking Zamari Ahmadi, who they believed to be an Islamic State suicide bomber who posed an imminent threat to US-led troops at the Kabul airport. But in reality, Zamari Ahmadi was an aid worker, and he, along with 9 of his family members, 7 of whom were children, were killed in the airstrike. An investigation was conducted by the US military, but no one was held accountable. The Pentagon had insisted that it was caused by execution errors, interpreting information that supported certain viewpoints, and communication breakdowns. It was written off as a tragic mistake. Remember, the strike was carried out just 3 days after an Islamic State suicide bomber killed 13 US troops and close to 200 Afghan civilians who were waiting outside the airport gates. But the disclosure of these videos is a rare step by the US military, especially in a case that caused civilian casualties. It's the first time that any footage from the Kabul strike has been seen clearly. Well, we want to remind our viewers that WION was the first international network to reach the house that was targeted, even 14 hours after the rockets struck the area. What we saw were harrowing visuals. The place still smelt as if something had just been melted. And our correspondent, Anas Malik, spoke to the family of the victims and revealed their demands.
Is that they demand justice. They have outrightly denied any lengths with the IS, contrary to how it has been reported or claimed. And they say that these were innocent civilians. This is what the family has maintained. There were children among them. 10 civilian casualties, as what the locals have been telling us, and they've also maintained that there was no secondary explosion. There was only one explosion that took place because of the rocket that had hit the car.
This was my best friend's house. He was an engineer and had nothing to do with army or anything. He had nothing to do with Talibs or anyone else either. He was an engineer. 10 people have been killed, including 7 children. There is a lot of fear because of the strike. I came here after 5 minutes. People were lying in a terrible condition. I did my best to take them out.
Okay, all right, that's great. Thank you. Well, as we told you a little earlier, the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is in Berlin for crisis talks on Ukraine, and we can take you live now as he makes a major speech on developments.
Complex challenges that our nations face is a testament to my colleague and friend, and also to the strength of the German-US bilateral relationship. That relationship runs much deeper than any single issue or set of interests and commitments. Above all, we are bound together by what we care about and how we engage in the world. You see that in our enduring efforts to improve democracy and human rights, including in our own countries, in our willingness to defend a set of rules and institutions that have underwritten peace and security far beyond our borders, in the way that we're stepping up to global challenges like climate, like COVID. And we're off to a running start in our collaboration with the new German government. And we could not be more pleased by that fact. As you know, yesterday, and as Annalena mentioned, I was in Kyiv to meet with President Zelensky, Foreign Minister Kuleva. And from here, Berlin, we head on to Geneva, where I'll see our Russian counterpart, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. And this trip comes on the heels, as Annalena says, of a week of very intense diplomacy when it comes to Russia. Across all the engagements with Moscow last week, our collective aim, the goal that we share, was to seek a diplomatic path to de-escalate tensions caused by Russia's massing of troops along Ukraine's borders, to deter and prevent a further Russian invasion or destabilization of Ukraine, and to address legitimate security concerns put forward by Russia, by the United States, by Europe, through dialogue, not through aggression.
Well, that was US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken speaking live in Berlin on the crisis on the Ukrainian-Russian border. Well, next this morning, major international airlines have resumed normal service to the United States after a slew of cancellations. There have been concerns over the rollout of 5G mobile networks that it would compromise airline safety. But the American Aviation Administration is yet to come up with a permanent solution to the 5G crisis.
Major international airlines are scrambling to reschedule or cancel flights to the U.S. as it grapples with a 5G rollout that's triggered widespread air safety concerns. That's despite American telecoms giants Verizon and AT&T agreeing on Tuesday to temporarily delay parts of the rollout around key airports. The Federal Aviation Administration has warned that potential 5G interference could affect some planes' ability to make landings in bad weather. Airlines say the Boeing 777 is one of them. That's prompted airlines like Emirates, the world's largest operator of Boeing 777s, Japan Airlines, and Korean Air to cut back on flights to the U.S. or switch to other planes. All that comes after days of pressure from airlines, lawmakers, and U.S. officials to delay the 5G deployment and avert a larger aviation crisis. Tuesday's announcement delaying the deployment for the third time was met with praise from the Biden administration, which said more than 90% of the deployment could go forward as scheduled. But industry sources say it arrived too late to affect complex aircraft and crewing decisions for some Wednesday flights. The FAA and airlines have yet to agree on a permanent solution to the 5G crisis.
Well, today is Penguin Awareness Day, a day to not just talk about how cute these creatures are, but also think about saving them. Some researchers are already on the hunt to find a way to preserve these unique flightless birds. And we leave you with their findings. Thanks for watching.
While we still have time and we still have penguins existing and not, going to extinction as a result of climate change, this gives us a really unique opportunity to both identify locations within Antarctica that are really important for establishing marine protected areas.
Marine protected areas are crucial for preserving and conserving species around the planet and certainly in the ocean. But in order to understand where we should place MPAs and what we're protecting, we need to be able to do science on the ground. Penguin science for a start, but also science relating to all of the other species out here in the ocean.
This is right, Arab.